Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello and Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Suno Tonight with Saadia Afzaal. We are back with yet another episode of our series Islam and the Modern World. The United States is primarily responsible for the ongoing worst situation of Middle East. Iran and Israel are on the brink of war, and it will soon become a regional war involving almost all the major stakeholders in the region. In the recent months, with the ongoing genocide and ethnic cleansing process of Palestinians, Israel's brutal face, its society's ruthless behavior towards Palestinians and other Muslim nations is open to the world. First of all, if we look at the inside situation of Israel, we realize that there are a lot of Israelis who tend to be in the center do not want to remain in Gaza. They want Israel to come out, but there are many right-wingers, including Netanyahu and his war cabinet, who want to kill Palestinians in Gaza, ethnically cleanse it, and build their temples and synagogues because they believe Gaza is a part of their holy land. Israel is an apartheid state, and to run an apartheid state, they have to turn the Palestinians into subhumans or treat them as animals. When you run an apartheid state, you end up brutalizing in the most horrible ways. And this has been happening in Israel for a long time. And the world witnessed the recent example of this brutality by Israeli forces raping the prisoners. What happened on October the 7th is that those terrible practices that the Israelis employ against Palestinians were ramped up. And what you see today is the Palestinians are treated in the most horrendous ways. And most people either living in the West or Muslim states cannot believe that Israelis are doing this because they are simply unaware that Israeli lobby is so powerful that this kind of information never gets published anywhere. Media outside Israel is reluctant to show the real image of Zionist state, but inside position is entirely different. Zionist state is building the minds of their society and filling hatred and reflecting that whatever their forces are doing is as per their book. Israeli media outlet Channel 12 recently ran a survey asking Israelis whether they thought it was okay for an Israeli to rape a prisoner. 47% of Israelis, according to Channel 12, thought it to be okay, and 42% negated. It depicts that Israeli society is horrible, but that's what the world has to deal with. Israeli human rights group called Welcome to Hell, which lays out in deep detail what has been happening in Israeli prisons to Palestinians, and that report makes it clear that whatever happened after 7th of October is the accelerated version of what used to happen before the 7th of October. This is also a fact that before October the 7th, the prisoners were treated in the most brutal way as well. However, the most surprising fact is that in the last few weeks, there is no condemnation from any Western nation, including the United States or Arab world or any other nation. Whereas, if we look at the external factors, the United States is the nation which says yes to all of Israel's vague language and demands. And in short, Israelis can do whatever they want to do in Middle East, and especially in Palestine. They have a free hand. However, in case of Iran, the United States does not want to get involved, but Israel is dragging Washington into this war. And American posturing is only to stop Iran from reacting in an aggressive way. America failed to stop Israeli aggression against Iran, but America's dual behavior remained obvious. In the recent months, for instance, on April 1st, when Israel attacked Iranian consulate in Damascus, and then on 31st July, Israel assassinated Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. But the US did not condemn Israel and indicated the act as a normal behavior. Israel remained the main source of destabilizing the Middle East, whereas the United States supported Zionist state at different levels. First, by providing dollars, secondly, by providing bombs, and thirdly, by providing legal cover at all international forums. Zionist state is following the policy of decapitation. Its delusion is that by eliminating the leadership, you will succeed. But the fact is, if one leader is killed, another leader will come in his place and war will continue. Israel has no alternative and has no way out of this Middle East mess. That's true for Gaza, Lebanon, and now in Iran. However, with the escalation of tensions in the region, other nations not directly involved, including Qatar, UAE, Jordan, Egypt, or Turkey, will also come into the limelight. And they could become target of the bigger war. Once war escalates, there is a possibility of Russian interference, and Putin will come into support of Tehran. And war will get messier, and this regional war has the potential to become a world war. Now, coming back to our primary question, why we being part of this so-called Ummah failed to expose the true face of Zionism and its brutalities against the Palestinian population. Israel is an apartheid state, but why have we failed to bring this into the spotlight? That is going to be our topic of discussion today. And to discuss this, I have with me Dr. Hassan Oj, joining us from Karachi, editor of research journal Al-Tafsir, scholar and member syndicate, University of Karachi. Thank you very much, Dr. Hassan, for joining us. And from Lahore, we have Kaisar Raja, research scholar, student of philosophy, science and religion. Thank you very much, Mr. Kaisar Raja, for joining us as well. I would like to start with you, Kaisar. How have historical relationships and political alliances, which we see today, influenced the decision of many Muslim majority countries to refrain from labeling Iran as an apartheid state?
Well, we have to go all the way back to the Treaty of Westphalia, and you'll have to bear with me because I am going way back in history, but it's very important to set up the historical build-up of it. The Westphalian Treaty was all about separating the states from the dominance of church and creating the sense of sovereignty. But actually it was a devious device. What they actually did was they took these states away from the church and they gave them under the international secular order. Obviously the secular order was not in its prime state at that time. It took time, but what we now have is an international order that has replaced the church, and the sovereignty of the states is no longer there, which is to say that your question that why Ummah has failed, well, I don't think Ummah itself has failed, but certainly the nation states of the Ummah, they have failed at the governmental levels. People obviously resisted in whatever manner they could. But so far as the governments are concerned, because they have been, they don't have the sovereignty or the independence that we normally talk about. Essentially, it came down to a simple point, which is that if you are to do well in the world, you will have to abide by the secular order. And the secular order, unfortunately, at the moment is standing with the state of Israel. And Israel can do whatever they want to do without any impunity. And the reason they are so brutal is because, look, when you behave, whatever way you behave in the international order, that all comes from the type of support you have. So, for example, if you know that you can be questioned, you can be challenged, then you will assume a much more diplomatic approach because you know that the ramifications and repercussions are going to be there. But if you know that I have a free to kill license and nobody can touch me, I will have US with me and they will veto any attempt that is going to put me under some limitation, and I know that Europe is standing with me, then why would I be diplomatic? I will go on a kill spree, and this is exactly what they are doing. And the Muslim nations, because of this, the international secularization that we have, it stops them. So for example, in Pakistan, the moment you try to do something, some domestic event happens in Pakistan to keep Pakistan busy locally. That can come in the form of TTP or BLA or anything else of that sort. So simultaneously, for example, we have in North Pakistan, we have some unrest there, and in South Pakistan, we also have unrest there in Gawada. So the point we're making is that the roots of this internationalization is so deep that they will stop you diplomatically, they will stop you physically, and even if you want to do something about it, your options are very limited.
Right, got your point. And when you spoke about the fear of being punished, that is obviously not there. And we have seen how OIC, how the United Nations, all these international organizations, they have failed to stop Israel. Moving on to Dr. Hassan, when we talk about diplomatic and economic considerations, we see that almost all Muslim majority countries, they have in one way or another, have, they are totally dependent on Israel, or they have accepted or recognized Israel for their long-term survival in the region. So to what extent you think that these diplomatic or economic interests with Western countries or other global powers have really affect the decision or the state of these Muslim majority countries to Israel's classification?
Regarding your question, I will say that whenever we see a situation from an external point of view, we always consider multiple factors about it. Being morally right, ethically right, of course, being human, being Muslim, we feel that we should be standing with the Palestinian people, we should be supporting their cause. There is no other point. Be the person of any other religion, be it Hindu, a Jew or a Christian or any other person who doesn't even follow a religion, he will say the same thing, that the Palestinians are being persecuted unjustifiedly. And the Zionist regime is, of course, in Israel is an apartheid state. But apart from that, we should also see things diplomatically. Sometimes when we see in a long-term scenario, we are supposed to get things in a very different way. Sometimes, like for example, there had been Treaty of Sulh Hudaybiyah. There had been a treaty when Prophet Muhammad actually migrated to Madina. He had a meeting with all the stakeholders, with the Jews and other stakeholders of the Madina, and they formed a state which was not necessarily an Islamic state, but they mutually coexist for a better future in the long run, and it ended up well. It ended up making Arabia, whole Arabia, Islamic. Whenever we see in that way, we feel that sometimes it's better to sit on the table, sometimes to let go of the situation, sometimes it's better to reconcile, sometimes to accept the bitter reality and focus on the future, and probably in a matter of years, in a matter of decades, there will be change in the paradigm. There will be a change in the circumstances, and the Muslims probably will be able to in such a position that they will be able to take over what happened in the Germany, that when Germany was divided between the East and West Germany after the World War II, they had been in such a situation that there was they were in doldrums and their economy was ruined. Still, they went to the USSR, they talked to them, they let the unification of Germany happen. They let their nation out of this mess. They are now the top 5 nations economic wise. So when we see things in a very different perspective, for that we are supposed to have a unity. There has to have a strong role of OIC, which is unfortunately.
All right. So, Kaisar, let's talk more about what Dr. Hassan just mentioned. Forget Western countries for a while. Western countries aside, if we see the relationship which Muslim countries have with each other, we see a lot of divide there. So how do these, these factors, particularly internal political dynamics within these Muslim countries, have actually, made an impact on their foreign policy or on their stance on Israel?
Well, when it comes to the foreign policy, obviously, it means that domestically you make a policy and based upon which you deal with the rest of the world. So the important thing is that it is developed domestically. What would you do when it is not developed domestically and it is given to you by the very people that you wanted to deal with through that policy? And it's obvious that that policy isn't going to go against them. So any delusion of Pakistani foreign policy being made in Pakistan, we just need to come off that. The sooner, the better. That's number one. Within this conversation, I would also like to record my disagreement with Dr. Saab with respect. I don't think Palestinians made any error by launching this multi-pronged attack on Israel. Okay. Because what you can't do is omit Palestinians from any peace negotiations. This notion that was developing at the time that tracks or path of peace around Ramallah, which means exclude Palestinians from the process and normalize the relationship with all the Arab countries. What Palestinians have been able to achieve is they have changed that course, and it's no longer around Ramallah, it's through Ramallah. So any sort of normalization, that the Palestinians have to be right in the center of it. And what other options do they have anyway? I mean, it's not that if they had not done this, their life would have been any better. Well, that's not the case. And I would also like to take the question into it when people say whether Israel has right to exist. And the reason I need to put this question into this conversation is that even though you do want to move away from what the West is doing and what our countries are doing, there is an element. There are proponents of this question that, well, Palestine, they got it wrong, and also whether Israel has right to exist. Well, it's not a very simple question. You can't just answer it like that, because you have to ask what is the cost of the existence of Israel. If the cost is the expulsion of 750,000 people in 1948 in Nakba, or 70 different massacres and the increasing land grab on year-on-year basis and reducing Palestinian lands to almost nothing, if this is the cost, so who is willing to pay that? And if the answer is still difficult, all you have to do is just change the geography. Take it to, say, in England, in Norfolk, and allow Zionists to create a little Israel there in the county of Norfolk. Let them take Norwich as their capital and keep on killing people, keep on killing babies, keep on taking lands, and then ask the question whether Israel has a right to exist there. And if the answer is no, it doesn't have a right to exist there, though, then the question would be, where does it have the right to exist on these terms and conditions? That's how simple the answer becomes then. But you have to go through these analyses. So far as the Muslim countries are concerned, look, we do have some divisions, but I don't think it's appropriate to have blanket statements about all the Muslim countries as to what they are doing. Because no matter what Muslim country you go to, you will see a clear disparity between the population of that country and the government of that country. Egypt, the Muslims, they are not okay with it. They aren't. What Israel is doing, they do want their government to respond. It's the government that doesn't. Us in Pakistan, we want our government to respond. And they have promised multiple times, but they don't. So I don't think it's fair on Muslim Ummah as a whole to be brushed with this leadership brush like this.
Muslim countries' leadership.
It's the leadership that is the problem. And can that be resolved? Well, absolutely it can be resolved. Look, you need to have spine to be able to matter in the international relations. But if you don't want to change anything, well, there is nothing you can change. Right. It's a good old Roman Latin idiom goes that. No. Look. You have to have this. The preparation from within. The good old Latin expression of the idiom goes something like this: "Si vis pacem, para bellum," which means that if you want peace, prepare for the war. Which means that if people know that you can respond to any hostility, they will respect you. But if they know that you will say yes, sir, to every single thing that comes to you, then there is not going to be any peace inside. You will not matter in international relations. So if you really want to be respected, the first step is that you have to start respecting yourself. And this is something our government, which is very spineless, they need to start respecting themselves a bit more. They can send delegates around the world. They can go and speak to Saudi Arabia and Iran and other countries.
So the question is
some kind of resistance can be developed.
Whether you can or can do, the question is all about your will. We'll take a break here, and when we come back, as always, we have an audience of university students with us. We'll open the floor for their questions right after this short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Suno Tonight with Saadia Afzaal. Now we are going to take questions from the audience. First question for Dr. Hassan, please.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Muhammad Umar, and I am from Namal University. My question is, the OIC is an organization consisting of 57 Islamic countries, and almost all Middle Eastern countries are members of the OIC. So whenever such a conflict arises in any country, it is natural for that country to look towards the OIC. So my question is, aside from condemning the issue, has the OIC played any significant role in stopping the genocide of the Palestinian? And especially when we talk about the Middle East, despite the majority of Muslim countries in the region, why are we so afraid of the Israel?
Okay, why are we afraid of Israel? Dr. Hassan.
Unfortunately, apart from taking an action, we could not even think of that. They didn't even fail to condemn. They didn't condemn even properly the words that should be used by the OIC, the countries that are being part of the OIC. They are unable to condemn properly. That's a shame for us, for all the Muslim Ummah, that our leaders, our representatives, they are so shy about speaking about Israel and USA and other West that they are unable to even condemn. Such a shame for us, and we don't have option but to vote for them or probably to live in their dictatorship. And when you don't have the option to fight back or to condemn, then we are left with no option but to go with ease with them. So when we are not even united as a nation, how can you expect that we will be able to get a nation, freedom for our nation?
Option left.
So that's unfortunate,
except
and I'm
going for a
very
peace
sorry
deal.
to say all this, but we don't have any other option, I guess.
All right, second question, go on.
My name is Itzaz Baloch, and my question is that with this whole present scenario, the whole world is looking the passive role of all Muslim countries. So what is the solution now? So what should be the next strategy of Hamas, Palestine, and all the Muslim countries who are playing their active role? So what is the solution? My question.
Right, Mr. Raja, would you like to respond to that, please?
Sure. Well, look, on the battlefront, there is little that can be done because you don't have any access there. You can't even go for, even to provide the humanitarian support. But the solution to this war or victory, it doesn't lie in the streets of Gaza. That lies in the global stage. So what the Muslims can do on the individual level, we always emphasize to keep on doing boycott, because when you do the boycott, it makes the war more expensive. At the government level, I think the winning this war isn't really that hard. All the Muslim countries have to do is just sit together and let Israel know, and the US know as well, that because all the trade that Israel is doing at the moment is doing through the Muslim lands, Muslim airspace, Muslim waters, and all the help that it's receiving from US is going in Israel from the same route. So whatever comes from Israel or whatever goes into Israel, it has to go through the Muslim lands. And why do we have to help? Now when we have the ICJ, that we have the International Court, the International Criminal Court taking part into it, I mean with the warrants and whatnot, ICJ decisions are there, United Nations is very clear, which means that you have a legitimate ground to actually put sanctions on Israel, that your trade won't go through our lands, and no help, no military help would go inside Israel. The US won't do anything. It has done its best in Afghanistan for 20 years, and it ended up embarrassed. 5 major wars US has been involved in since the Second World War, and it lost in 4 of them. So that glorification of their military prowess in the Hollywood is only inside Hollywood. The reality is much different.
That's an exaggerated, true.
Absolutely. The US is not going to take on the Muslim world. Israel is not going to. And if you do this sort of blockade for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, this war is over.
Right. We'll take another question. Please go on.
And I am student of BS Mass Communication at Federal Urdu University, Islamabad. My question is that if we talk about recent media coverages, they all show that all the Middle East countries are providing a security shield to the Israel. So if we talk about that, and another thing is that if we talk about OIC, they all are the members of OIC, and the other countries like Turkey Turkey is in trade with
Israel. Okay.
And after that, if we talk about Pakistan have a lot of economical issues. So behind that, which country left who is in the leading role, who lead the OIC against Israel? So this is my question.
Right. Dr. Hassan.
We cannot do anything about our rulers, about the OIC, but what we can do is to keep preaching and keep promoting the cause of the Palestinian people on social media. Though the profiles were blocked, lots of my people, my friends and followers, their profiles were blocked. I kept promoting the videos of Palestine and against Israel and etc.
So you think
that's
that
what we can do.
Focus on what we do at an individual level.
Yeah, we should be doing things at an individual level, because we will be answerable in our graves for that. What the government should be doing, it's not, we cannot help it out. You know, they have their own policies. Unfortunately, we are not even allowed to chant the slogans in the favor of Palestinian people and to wave the flags of the Palestine. You know, I had asked my people in University of Karachi to please bring the flag of Palestine on the 14th Feb celebration as well. Because you know, it's very important that when we are celebrating our freedom, we should be standing with the freedom of the Palestinian people. That's the least we can do.
But his question was that which Muslim country is capable of leading against Israel, and second part was media portrayal, right? That media portrayal of Israel.
I had answered about the media portrayal, because media is more relevant in social media domain. I think now the social media is taken over, and I think whatever we do on social media gets momentum, gets the coverage. Regarding the country which should be leading, which can be leading, I think there is no such country left. Unfortunately, though Iran does try to, but it's so weak that they cannot even defend their own president. They cannot defend their Ismail Haniya, who was the guest. So they are so weak, though they do have the courage. I do admire their courage, but I think only courage is not enough. Rather, the wise strategy is also important.
Welcome back to Suno Tonight with Saadia Afzaal. We'll take another question.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Muhammad Sibghatullah, a student of English Studies from Namal University, Islamabad. I have a question regarding the role of United Nations. What has been the role of United Nations in addressing the Israel-Palestine conflict? Do you think United Nations resolutions and peace initiatives been effective or not? That's my question.
Right, Mr. Kesaraja.
Well, Sabaghatullah, what you need to understand is that the United Nations is not there to resolve global problems. You have to understand the history and how it works. In the last century, three dominating powers, or dominant powers, were up against each other. It was fascism, communism, and liberalism. So what happened in the Second World War, communism and liberalism, they got together and they defeated fascism. That is Mussolini, that is Hitler. And once that threat was out of the way, these two people, or I shouldn't say people, sorry, these two entities, they started competing each other, but that competition had to be limited. So United Nations came into being with the Security Council, 5 members, 3 of them are from the liberal camp, 2 of them from the communist camp, and they got together not to bring about the peace in the world, because if that were the case, why would they fight in Korea? Why would they fight in Vietnam? Even why are they fighting now in Ukraine and Russia? It is still saying liberal versus communist problem which is happening. So they are not there to resolve anything. They are there to make sure that the international secular order remains intact. Obviously, Russia, China, they would prefer the socialist rendition of socialism, whereas France, Britain, and the US, they would prefer the liberal rendition of it. But ultimately, it is all about secularism. It isn't about any country. It isn't about helping people. I mean, if you look at the number of people that have suffered after the Second World War, that actually, the number outweighs the pre-Second World War, the figures can
Yeah, absolutely,
obviously, it does. And this is the whole point. And also, you just think about logically, that if selling weapons is your business, then peace is not in your interest. Now, if you look at the top 10 weapon-selling countries, you will see 5 of these part of those top 10. So why would they want peace in the world?
That's true. Yeah, go on.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Rahila Wasim, and my question is why the Muslim nations are so much heavily dependent on West and United States?
All right, go on, Dr. Hassan.
Because they cannot think out of the box. We are so much because of colonialism. The slavery is ingrained in us, in our genes probably. So it will take centuries to get out of this mess. Because once you are conquered and you had been slaves for last like 2 centuries, so we were colonized by the UK and British Empire and the French Empire, the other countries. So when we had been subject to all this, we won't be able to get out of this easily. For that, we are supposed to be confident about our heritage, about our Islamic traditions, about our Islamic values. But we should also be studying the science. We should be making progress in science. I think that's where the problem lies. That we as Muslims feel that we should only be going for the typical Islamic education and things, rituals. I think learning in astronomy, serving biology, and other aspects, archaeology, they all are mentioned in Quran. They all should be studied and should be part of Muslim students. They should be actually prospering in all these subjects. Only then we will be able to make certain impact. After the 5th generation warfare, that's been going on. What matters is that how strong you are IT-wise in technology, how well you are doing in terms of technology. So without technology, now the wars are not fought on the battleground, rather they are fought on the keyboard.
So education is the key.
That's the only way.
Right, we'll have to take one last question. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Usman Rashid from Namal University. I was just reading about the news of Jerusalem Post. So in this news, he mentioned that Saudi Arabia helped to defend Israel against Iran. So what's the main purpose of Saudi Arabia? Why they don't help Iran as against Israel?
All right, Mr. Kesaraja.
Well, a lot of that goes, Osman, to the local politics as well. Look, I mean, some people believe that because Iran is a predominantly Shia country and the Saudi Arabia is predominantly Sunni country and a very particular version of it, well, that's not the case. If you look at the Iran and KSA history pre-1979, you will see much different picture there. If you look at the exchange of letters between the Shah and the royal family, again, there's much affection and love and admiration for one another. Problem that Saudi Arabia sees is that if the type of revolution that occurs in Iran, if we don't distance Iran from our people politically, even religiously, then some of those germs can be, Saudi people may catch that flu of revolution, and that obviously is not going to be good. So for that, they have to create an abhorrence about Iran, that it's just, I mean, so far as the religion is concerned, I mean, the people in Iran, I mean, the manifestation of religion has significantly became greater than before 1979. So religion can never be the issue. And if that were the case, Saudi ulamas and the government, they would all say that the pre-1979 Iran, which was very secular, very liberal, and everything was different. I mean, that would have been a great opportunity for them to say that, look, Iranians don't practice religion, bad guys, stay them away. But no, actually they were very cozy, they were very close. It's only when the revolution occurred, and that's something that the Saudi Arabia can't afford. So they have created that abhorrence. And this is, again, something that goes back to the 1945, where we have a treaty between the US and the royal family of Saudi Arabia. Mind you, not the Saudi Arabia as the country, the royal family, and that is that we will protect you against any affront which is caused against you. So they have that protection that comes from there. I mean, and this is where the things get really interesting and really sad, that when we have the protectors of our holy sites in Saudi Arabia, and they have sought their own protection from New York or Washington, D.C., but there is only so much to hope for then Iran is going to be the bad guy, because that could cause an affront to your country. I mean, the people started thinking like Iranians do, that, you topple this government and bring in more democracy and whatnot. But that's never a good news. And the US, it suits them because the dictatorship gives you the one window operation. All you have to do is deal with the dictator. Whereas in democracy, you have to deal with the, if not the entire parliament, at least most of it. So it's a win-win situation for US and Saudi Arabia. Unfortunately, countries like Iran, they are there to pay the price.
Right. So this argument of one country being a Shia country and the other being a Sunni country, that's a very weak argument, what you have just told us. Yeah, so things are not as simple. Right. Mr. Kaisar Raja, Mr. Hassan Oj, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me today on the show. And I thank all our students here. That's all for tonight. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night and Allah Hafiz.